you're not on trial in CPI. No one's judging you. No.
Well, I am,
No one
but...
is judging you here in this organization. We're happy to have you here, and we love you. We love you, and we support you, and we want you to make
no matter how much you suck.
We want to empower you to make that contribution. That's what we want to do. And I say that because I want you to let your guard down.
Of course he wants you to let your guard down. He's trying to manipulate you.
I want you to
Oh, this is from the same summit where he demonstrated that he didn't understand how to derive surplus value.
happen, but sometimes you have to get people out of their comfort zone to get them to do what needs to be done. Those two guys certainly knew that.
Okay. Help me out. Who's the guy on the right there? I mean, Stalin. Okay, that's a new way of introducing Stalin. I have to say that he was somebody who helped get people out of their comfort zone. Like, I mean, Stalin, the self-help entrepreneur. But who is that on the right? I can't quite make out the face. Is that John Brown?
I'm going to take time in this presentation
to change the camera
point out something that perhaps isn't the most scientific Marxist thing ever to say.
What? You're shocking me, Caleb. You're going to say something that isn't necessarily all that scientifically Marxist? Oh, shit. Yes, I see. Let me adjust that. I mean, it actually looks a bit like Peter Capaldi from here. But I don't think it's Peter Capaldi.
But women are better than men, okay? And we don't believe in...
Well, I mean, if your sample is Caleb Maupin, it seems like it would be hard to argue with this.
Biological determinism, we don't believe in the inherent superiority of any genders and sexes, but women are better than men. Women are better organizers than men, okay? Let's be real. We men, we like to get up here and give speeches, and we're always competing with the other guys, but women... No.
Oh, God, okay, so... He's just really kind of running the self-help grift circuit now. I mean, at some point, he is going to welcome Gary V into the fold, I'm sure of it.
Know how to hold groups together. They know how to get stuff done. You know, we love our president, Elizabeth Young, who's done so much to hold this organization together this year.
Oh, yeah, despite his best efforts as well. I mean, the reason the organization keeps falling apart is the scandals that he brings with it.
And we also love Jetta, and nobody messes with Jetta. Let me just put it that way. Jetta's awesome, and she's also done so much to hold this organization together. And we're also very proud to have the top communist woman in Britain joining us today. So
the TERF. I mean, listen to this bullshit. The top communist woman in Britain. I mean, she works with fucking George Galloway, and she's in easily of the relatively well-known Marxist-Leninist sects. It's easily the smallest, most universally derided, and the most reactionary. Well, then again, that might be... I mean, there is also the CPB, in addition to CPG-BML. And they're pretty fucking reactionary. So that's actually a close-run thing, thinking about it. But yeah.
Oh.
And she's big into biological determinism.
We'll be hearing from her tomorrow. I'm very excited for her presentation about the fight in the global communist movement. But women are so much better than men. Men have problems. We do.
Yeah, I mean, again, looking at the sample that we're going from right now, I really can't see how I could disagree.
Okay? And especially now, it's a very hard time to be a young man. We talk, I mean, obviously the oppression of women, sexual assault.
Well, yeah, I mean, that stuff, okay, take it as read. But, yeah, actually, it's really just hard for the guys. I mean, look at... Is he gonna just do another one of these blaming the left on for Andrew Tate things or something like that? Is that where this is going?
And battery and all the things that women go through, I mean, doesn't compare, but this is a hard time to be a young man also. And, I see so many young men out there, and it's like every day they feel like they're on trial, right? And they're desperate to prove themselves because there's so much judgment poured on young men right now. Why don't you have a good paying job, that pays for everything? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have a house? So many young men, they've been told all their lives that they have all this...
Surely if anyone gets judged for not being married, it would overwhelmingly be women.
Obligation. And then the society around them is crumbling and they don't find a place in it. And I meet so many young men, and we are an overwhelmingly male organization.
This does not surprise me.
We are. I mean, there's no way to deny that. Look at this room,
Yeah, total sausage fest, am I right?
We're an overwhelmingly male organization, and I love all the men here. And I want all the men here to know
it's interesting that when he was talking about examples of great women in the organization, he specifically did not mention Lily Goldklang, who is sort of his alibi for transphobia. Well, and his alibi for anti-Semitism. She kind of does double duty there. I mean, actually, I kind of have to wonder if she's possibly reconsidering her position as well, given the just really vile shit that he piled on in a segment he called Woke Trans Hysteria. You see, which was all about making fun of trans people for being a little bit, apprehensive about laws that basically ban trans people from existing and getting healthcare and other important life activities. And he thought that was fucking hilarious. And he did a long-ass bit on it, too. And, I mean, it was, like, possibly the vilest thing I've ever seen him do. And that's really something. I mean, I kind of hope she decides to leave and spill the tea, personally.
You're not on trial in CPI. No one's judging you. No.
Well, I am,
No one is judging you here in this organization. We're happy to have you here, and we love you. We love you, and we support you, and we want you to make...
No matter how much you suck.
And we want to empower you to make that contribution. That's what we want to do. And I say that because I want you to let your guard down.
Of course he wants you to let your guard down. He's trying to manipulate you.
I want you to just let your guard down and give yourself to this, because it's hard. In a world where everyone seems to be attacking you, where no one seems to ever give you a break, where everyone seems to be judging you and rating you,
all I want you to do is pay me rent for a shitty hotel room in Jersey City and sell my crappy merch every day, door to door.
I want you to take a deep breath and say, this is the group I'm in, I'm committed to it. I want you to go all in, and I want you to let your guard down, and I want you to do your best.
Well, okay, this is... That is an impressive manipulation we're watching here. This is actually, I am kind of impressed. This is like the first time I've really seen him where somebody could actually fall for him.
And it's hard. It's hard to trust in these kinds of times.
Especially, I mean, a guy like Caleb Maupin, that's really hard to trust. It is a true trust challenge. I mean, the people in that organization, they are like the fucking world champions of trust. Because they've seen all the shit that he gets up to. They've listened to all the complete nonsense that comes out of his mouth, and they still somehow trust him.
Social media is so good at making everyone terrified of everyone else. Everyone's afraid. Everyone feels like they're being judged.
This is the guy who claims that everybody except his cult is a CIA psyop.
Put on trial every single minute. I want CPI to be a place where people don't feel like that's the case. I want CPI to be a place where people feel like they are free to be who they are and they can let their guard down. Because it's hard. It is so hard in these times. So absolutely hard.
yeah. What about women? How are women meant to feel? I mean, when you're not trying to manipulate them into sex work.
And I'll say this. I'll say this. I know why Maduro is still in power. You know,
Well, I mean, that's easy. The far right in Venezuela is probably the most incompetent group of assholes in all of South America. They are constantly at each other's throats. They don't know their asses from their elbows. And they are mostly just grifters. Like Guaido, all he's really done with his fake ass designated president position that was gifted to him by Mike Pence. The guy who, well, you know, Democrats has been telling us is a guy who stands up for democracy, because he jumped ship at the very last possible minute from the Donald Trump Titanic. I mean, all he's done is siphon off huge amounts of money from the overseas assets of Venezuela to himself and his friends. That's all he's done. That's why Maduro is still in power, despite the fact that he's actually pretty fucking incompetent as well. And like a lot of people who who are sort of part of the electoral left, he has no real repertoire for how to deal with the inevitable fight back of capital, than to just sort of knuckle under.
This country, Maduro was the leader of Venezuela, and the United States, especially right after Chavez died, they did everything to take Maduro out of power. I know why Maduro is still in power. I know why the United Socialist Party hasn't been defeated. Because when I went to Venezuela in 2015, when the opposition in Venezuela had a sweep and won the elections, after that election, they took us to a commune in central Caracas.
It's worth noting that actually, the commune movement, which is one of the really cool things going on in Venezuela, to be clear, the line that they have used in all these years of threatened coups against Maduro, against Chavez, has basically been, particularly against Maduro, extremely critical. And, like, the last time there was a serious threat against the elected government what they basically said was, look, if anyone's going to overthrow Maduro, it's going to be the Venezuelan working class or nobody. Yeah, was essentially the line they said. You know, described him as a representative of false socialism. Which, I mean, yes, actually. I mean, in his better moments, he's a social democrat. He's in an unenviable fucking position in a lot of ways. But his instincts are just sock dem.
And in central Caracas, we sat down with a woman.
Wow, they sat down with a woman. He's fascinated by the fact that a woman would sit down with him. I'm surprised too.
21 years old, was wearing army pants, and I can guarantee you she knew her way around an AK-47. I can guarantee you that. And she said to us,
well, that. How are you gonna guarantee that? She's wearing camouflage trousers. I mean, I think that a lot of people own a pair of those who've never even held a weapon.
They will never come back. And she told us her life story. She'd been a homeless young woman on the streets of Caracas, didn't even speak Spanish, only spoke indigenous languages. She'd been an orphan, and there was a priest who was a socialist, a liberation theology priest, who took her in. And she grew up in an orphanage run by this liberal...
And folks, in the spirit of taking people in, I hope you're being taken in right now.
Liberation theology priest. And Hugo Chavez was the president, and they watched him on TV, and he taught them about Marxism, and he read them what is to be done on television, and she learned about socialism and revolution, and she told me, she said, I'm a communist, but I'm also a Christian. And she said, I believe God put me on this earth to die for communism. That is what I intend to do. They will never come back. That's what she told me.
Wow, that wasn't much applause for a really fucking passionate pronouncement there. I guess communism maybe isn't all that popular in the CPI, which very carefully avoids actually using the word in its name.
And I also know why the Islamic Republic of Iran is not going to fail. because I've been there and I had the
Well, I mean, if he's been there, it can't fail.
opportunity of being one of the only Americans, or not one of the only, but one of the few Americans to ever be in the presence of Iran's supreme leader, which is quite an experience.
And like, okay, so you talk to politicians. You talk to fucking politicians. Did you talk to any communists in Iran? I mean, admittedly, it's kind of hard to find them. A lot of them are living as refugees in Europe, actually. But as
it was the supreme leader of Iran. He speaks every year on the anniversary of the death of Imam Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic. And I was in this auditorium with 20,000 people, and he walks out, and he can only...
So he was in an auditorium with 20,000 people. See, it sounded like they were having a nice little sit down together, and now he's in an auditorium with 20,000 people. That's a bit of a change there. It's a bit like the way he describes his, in his fucking cartoon, his CV cartoon, he presents his, the speech he gave at Occupy as this rousing thing that there was an audience for, and then when you actually look at the video of the speech he gave during Occupy, nobody was listening. He was just sort of standing around the street with a megaphone, and people were checking their fucking smartphones.
He used one of his arms because of a bombing, and he puts his arm up, and that room just goes crazy. They just go crazy, crying and screaming, and, the men...
Why don't you people do that, folks? Folks, that's how you're supposed to respond to a supreme leader. Why can't I get any respect?
Extend their hands, and they say, the blood in my vessels belongs to the supreme leader. The blood in my vessels belongs to the supreme leader.
Yeah, isn't that... I mean... he's so telling on himself. This is clearly what the kind of mentality he would really like to have in his followers.
And, when I was in downtown...
it's all very communist, obviously.
I was talking to people who work in the media in Iran. I was talking to wealthier folks who support the revolution. But when I was in that...
talking to wealthier folks. How about some working class people? How about, possibly some communists? Since you... bill your travels as some sort of communist heroism.
Auditorium and that mausoleum of Khomeini with 20,000 other people. I was talking...
Yeah, but, I gotta say, though, that auditorium, as much as it was a mausoleum, it's not nowhere near the mausoleum that we have when I speak to the CPI. Isn't that right, folks? This is the true mausoleum.
Talking to the working class of Iran. I was talking to people who wouldn't have running water and electricity if it weren't for the Islamic Revolution. That's what I was talking about. And there's a reason they were screaming in adoration for Khamenei, the supreme leader, because he was the one who could stand for them against the rich and powerful. He was their champion, to stand with the oppressed.
Then why are they still rich and powerful?
That's what they talk about. It's part of the Shia revolutionary tradition. And that was real politics. That wasn't leftism. That wasn't LARPing. That wasn't...
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't leftism, certainly. I mean, it's interesting that, real politics, that's just the English for realpolitik. I mean, which is to say, completely unprincipled bullshit.
Internet debating, that was real politics, that auditorium of 20,000 people.
No, it fucking isn't. That's fucking pageantry. It's what you try to do with that bullshit with your flag ceremony. But don't really pull off because you're in a shitty hotel room someplace.
I was standing there, I was wearing my suit, no ties, because in Iran you don't wear a tie, but I was wearing a suit, and I'm standing there with a lot of Chinese diplomats from African countries. And we're standing there, and he's making different remarks about different things.
Different remarks about you. What I love is that you could just sort of really feel like you were there.
The time that I was there, in Iran there was a controversy about whether or not to call America the Great Satan. And some people were saying, well, maybe we should stop calling America the Great Satan. I was standing there as the only American in an auditorium of 20,000 people where the Supreme Leader stated his position on the issue. And he said, even though we signed a nuclear deal with the United States...
Yeah, which, given the nature of that deal, really does not negate the status of the U.S. as Great Satan, since the whole premise was to actually... that deal, there's so much debate about it that is just such nonsense. Because... in the political sphere, it's all, okay, was the deal good? Was the deal not good? But the idea, for the U.S., but nobody talks about the fact that what the deal was is that the U.S. lied their asses off, claiming that Iran had some sort of nuclear weapons program. Their own intelligence people, according to their own national intelligence estimate, says they don't have anything of the sort, though it's really kind of amazing that they wouldn't, because, I mean, just look at the people they're up against. You'd kind of want to have some kind of insurance policy. But anyway, so the U.S. Uses this as a justification for just murderous economic warfare against Iran, and then Obama says, "Okay, well, we will, if you agree to actually screw up your fucking nuclear energy program, which is the only thing that they verifiably have, then we will allow you not to starve quite as much." I mean, it's that deal. We should never. I mean, nobody should have fucking celebrated that. That was not. I mean, it's celebrating the U.S. as this big triumph of diplomacy, but it's really just they held a gun to some people's head and they went along with what they were, and they did what they were told.
We do consider America to be the great Satan, but we don't consider the American people to be the great Satan. We mean the system of imperialism, the system of war and death and destruction. That's what we consider to be the great Satan. And we will never compromise on that. And though we may negotiate, we will never surrender to the great Satan. And then I was the only American in an auditorium of 20,000 people.
Yeah, did you bring the fucking American flag that you like to wave around all the time now?
Who began chanting, "Death to America," and pumping their fists like this, "Death to America, death to America." And tears rolled down my face.
What is this, cataract vision?
And it is an experience I will never forget for the rest of my life. To stand there, and I said "death to America," burned American flags as a leftist before, but in that moment, everything meant something different to me, because I was with those people. I was with them against the US.
And that's why you decided to create a fucking patriotic socialist organization where you wave around the fucking flag that is probably the most burnt flag on the planet, for understandable reasons.
But I also knew that so many of the American people would have something to gain from destroying not America as we know it, but the America of the bankers and the billionaires and the war hawks and the...
That is America as we know it, though.
Monopolists. And there's millions of Americans who would be in that room with me if they knew the truth. If they knew the truth, they'd be in that room with me.
Jesus, okay, I mean, it is just really quite fascinating to watch him mature as a manipulator of very small masses. Like, this is a new thing for him, to actually try to reach a fever pitch. And the reason he can't pull it off is because he's just so fucking boring. He's completely unable to keep a consistent narrative, and the level of dramatic tension is roughly on the level of the instructions to a Form 1040. I mean, look at the fucking polite golf clap.
And that we have a responsibility to take this seriously. We have a responsibility to try and communicate this in a way that'll win people over. We have a responsibility to not burn the American flag, but to wave the American flag. We have a responsibility to not advocate death, destruction, and chaos, but a 4-point economic plan that would improve people's lives.
Everybody's fucking gaga for 4-point economic plans.
Game. This isn't a joke. This is serious.
You're off your mark. You're out of frame, Caleb.
And it is our job to do the best that we can do here in the center of the empire, to get working people to understand who their real enemy is and why imperialism is the enemy of all humanity.
That's the imperialism that, it's worth remembering, he was just celebrating a few minutes before this, in the form of legendary investor Jim Rogers salivating over the theoretical prospect of being able to buy up the economy of the DPRK.
That is what our responsibility is It's not a joke. And I couldn't unsee what I saw in that room. And that was the beginning of my trip out of the Workers' World Party. The day I walked out of that room was the day I was beginning to leave the Workers' World Party.
I thought that he got kicked out of the Workers' World Party. I thought the day he walked out of that room is the day when the Workers' World Party had decided he was too dodgy even for them.
Because I couldn't unlearn it. And then when I went back to the United States and went to leftist protests, something was off. I felt sick to my stomach. I was frustrated. I was like, guys, people are losing their homes and jobs in Ohio. This is not a joke. Can we mature? Can we take this seriously? It's not about
what is he, Tony Blair now?
Doing what's trendy and hip. It's about actually trying to win. And I saw that something was off.
These are the exact moves that people like to use when they shift over into like Democratic Party politics. Like, every ex-radical who's become a Democratic Party politician has some version of this fucking speech.
And then Donald Trump ran for president. And I saw Donald Trump saying a lot of things that
Well, that's true. That man did say a lot of things.
I agreed with, about the wars and about the elite. And I saw
the elite.
A left that didn't want to engage with these people.
That didn't want to engage with a bunch of white nationalists. I wonder why.
All racist. They're all, and just...
Well, yes, they are. They are, though.
Dismissed. Basket of deplorables, like Hillary Clinton said.
Except that nobody likes Hillary. I mean, is he going to do this thing where he pretends that anyone to the left of him also loves Hillary Clinton? Because, of course, like, none of the people he's attacking. Everybody fucking hates Hillary Clinton. That is one of the political universals. It's like hating Joe Biden. Right-wingers think that they invented that shit. But, I mean, the fact is they're newcomers.
And I said, we got to do something about this. CPI is a result. CPI is a result.
The Creepy Pricks International.
Of my revelations.
Yeah, the fact that they're on the second, they're on CPI Mark II is the result of his revelations. Can't argue with that.
Nationally, and my understanding and my frustration and my desire to take this seriously. And that's why CPI is still here. And that's why I will continue to do this. I won't say who, but I got multiple messages that really all traced back to one particular leftist personality who said to me, Caleb, you should stop organizing.
And, okay. See, I'm surprised to hear that anyone would even believe that he is organizing. I wouldn't call this organizing. This is, I mean, he's just rolling out a fucking snake oil sale.
You should stop organizing. Just be a social media commentator. And I heard that and I said, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, of course you don't know what that means. Why would you know what organizing is? You've never fucking done it.
And I said to the person, honestly, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I believe you.
For me, being a communist is about building an organization.
Exactly, and you don't know what that means.
It is about building a group. It is about getting things done. If I was just a writer, or just a speaker, or just a commentator on the internet, maybe I'd comment on science fiction novels. Maybe I'd comment on basketball.
He's actually commented on Bram Stoker's Dracula. He did a whole thing about the sexual politics of Bram Stoker's Dracula. We looked at it on stream once.
Football. But if I'm talking about communism, I'm doing it because I want to change the world. I'm doing it because I want to build an organization. I read the literature I read communist literature, William Z. Foster, Gus Hall. It's all about building an organization.
Hey, Mask, you familiar with, okay, I know William Z. Foster, but Gus Hall? General Secretary of the Communist Party USA, perennial candidate for the President of the United States, Communist Party nominee in 72, 76, 80, and 84. He translated in his head his stop organizing with you. Probably said something like more along the lines of go away, you're a sex pest, nobody likes you. Okay, entirely plausible interpretation. Well, I think so.
It's not about, getting points on social media. It's not about having the best edgy take that everyone retweets. It's about...
like the time that you wrote an entire book that was nothing but attacking people for criticizing you on social media and claiming they were all a psyop.
About actually building an organization. That is the point. Karl Marx said that philosophers have long sought to analyze the world. The point, however, is to change it.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.